We know noble gases are very stable. They do not undergo any reaction. This is the reason why they are also known as inert gases. They have a very stable electronic configuration. This is because they satisfy the octet rule. All the noble gases except helium, which has a duplet structure, all the other noble gases, they have 8 electrons in their valence shell. This means they follow the octet rule, and the octet rule says that all the elements which have 8 electrons in the valence shell, that is the most stable electronic configuration for that element. Since all the noble gases have 8 electrons in the valence shell, this is the most stable electronic configuration. So that is why they do not undergo any reaction and are also known as inert gases. If there are two people on a boat, one person has some extra balls, the other person has lesser balls as compared to the first person. So the boat starts sinking towards the person carrying extra load. So in order to balance the boat, one person transfers one ball to the other person. So in the end, both are happy. So we see that sometimes a person who gives something is happy and a person who receives something is also happy. Similar is the case for some atoms. Sodium has 11 electrons. That is, it has the electronic configuration 281. In order to have the configuration close to the nearest noble gas, it needs to get rid of one extra electron. Only then will it satisfy the octet rule. And chlorine has 287. This is the electronic configuration of chlorine. In order to have the stable electronic configuration, it needs one more electron in its valence shell. So now, sodium has one extra electron. Chlorine has one electron short of the stable electronic configuration. So sodium gives one electron to chlorine. When it does that, now sodium has the electronic configuration 2,8 and chlorine has the electronic configuration 288. When sodium loses one electron, now it has one electron less, so it becomes Na plus. Since chlorine gains one extra electron, so it becomes Cl minus. And by doing this, both have the most stable electronic configuration. And now, one has a positive charge, one has a negative charge. In physics, you have studied that unlike charges attract. So, the positive ion is attracted towards the negative ion. They start attracting each other and hence come closer to each other, forming a compound NaCl. Sodium loses one electron to have the most stable electronic configuration. Chlorine gains one electron to have the most stable electronic configuration, and they form a compound NaCl. This can also be represented by writing the chemical symbol, that is Na. We only show the valence electrons. So sodium has one valence electron, chlorine has 7 valence electrons. So now in order to become stable, this gives the one extra electron to chlorine. So it becomes Na plus, chlorine becomes Cl minus. So we can either write it as Na plus Cl minus or NaCl. And this type of a compound is known as an ionic or electrovalent compound. Why do we call it ionic compound? Because the formation of ionic compound involves the formation of ions. As we had seen in case of NaCl, it forms Na plus and Cl minus. Since it involves the formation of ions, such compounds are known as ionic or electrovalent compounds. And the forces holding the ions together are the electrostatic forces of attraction. These strong electrostatic forces of attraction hold the ions together, and this is how we get the ionic compound or the electrovalent compound. So the chemical compounds formed as a result of transfer of electrons. Keep in mind, there is transfer of electrons. One atom is losing one electron, another atom is gaining one electron in case of NaCl. So there is transfer of electrons, and such chemical compounds are known as ionic or electrovalent compounds. The electrovalent compounds are formed by the sharing of electrons, transfer of electrons, sharing of protons, or the transfer of protons. So as we had seen before, the ionic compounds or the electrovalent compounds, they are formed by the transfer of electrons. One atom loses electrons, the other atom gains electrons, and hence to satisfy the octet rule, both the atoms, they involve the transfer of electrons from one atom to other atom. Let's look at the formation of NaCl. We take the sodium metal, and this is a jar containing chlorine gas. So when the sodium metal is introduced in the jar containing chlorine gas, an exothermic reaction takes place and we get NaCl, that is the ionic compound sodium chloride. So the ionic or the electrovalent compounds, they are formed by the transfer of electrons. One atom loses electrons, other atom gains electrons, and the strong forces holding the ions together are the electrostatic forces of attraction.